Good evening here from the UK, and a very good morning to you, Mr. Touch, Peter Walters from Touch New Zealand. Thanks for joining us, Pete.
Morning, Benny. Great to be chatting.
Yeah, thanks very much. And one face missing here. We haven't got Niall with us today. She's got some stuff she needs to deal with, but I'm sure we can come on to sort of Pete and her's relationship a little bit later in terms of how he's seen her progress and things like that. But we promise we'll catch up with Niall at some point over the next few months. So Pete, thanks very much for joining us. And I think a good place to start was you and I trying to sort out a date for our catch up here. And you telling me, I've got 3 touch finals in a night, and nothing's changed. You're not slowing down, are you?
Well, I am slowing down, but I'm still playing lots of touch. Yeah.
Good. Yeah. For those out there who know Pete well, he's there playing 45s, 35s, and then he just drops in there that he won the men's open final as well by a touchdown. So yeah, still giving the young guys a go, huh, Pete?
Well, Benny, it's just fun, and I sort of make up the numbers a little bit in the means. But yeah, it's all good. It's all good fun, and love running around.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, thanks for joining us. So we'll get into it. Pete, I wonder, and I know lots of people are kind of familiar with you over here, and you've got a long history of coming to visit us and helping everyone out over in Europe. But just give us a little bit of insight into sort of your touch career to date, and sort of where it's come from and where you are now.
Oh well, yeah, mate. It's been an awesome and long journey, and so I imagine I've been playing since I started in '79. So there's 40 years there, and the game's progressed lots. It's been really cool being part of those changes and how the game has progressed from 7-a-side to being able to score from dummy half to not needing to put the ball down over the line, just jumping over with 2 feet. So there's been massive changes there, and it's meant our player, our athlete has changed as well. Now we've got to be a lot more agile, a lot fitter, a lot stronger, and a lot faster with that especially the off the marks. Sort of 5 to 20 to 25 meter sprints and stopping and subbing, and only 6-a-side. So it's been cool watching the game progress, mate. And even countries like yourselves, I've seen. I was just having a think about before our chat, and I remember, and I think it might have been Paris Euros in 2008, and I had a team over there, and beating England 19-0, and I had a chat with a couple of guys about, and there were some young kids in there that are sort of legends in your sport now. That played in that team, and I'd be thinking, and someone saying, yeah, look, we're hoping to progress, and it'll, maybe 5 to 10 years before. And in my mind, I was thinking 20 years before we half the score, and I reckon it's there. Do you know what I mean? It was never going to be easy, because Australia and New Zealand, it's so ingrained where we grow up with the ball, and you guys have so many other options with football and things, and so it's been cool being part of those changes and that improvement and development. And you guys are doing great things, and Peter Bell and others that you've utilized in recent years have done wonders. But certainly that can't happen without your own people being passionate and enthusiastic. So so yourself and so many other people that I can't remember all the names, or I don't want to mention a few and miss others that have been part of England's development, and it's been cool watching it, mate.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to hear from your perspective, and yeah, I mean, we'll touch on a lot of those experiences as we go through the thing. So, look, I think we'll start. You and I just having a chat beforehand. Everything Galaxy, and if you could just tell us a little bit about Galaxy Touch and how it started, and and impressively how Galaxy is just all around the world now. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. Galaxy. I started Galaxy as a bunch of mates. I was playing with a bunch of mates, and across the road from where I live now. So 20 meters away from here is the fields that we started on back in 1987. And it was a bunch of mates, and I thought, I was wanting to get serious with it. and I retired from rugby and as a 27-year-old with a few injuries in those prior years. So I was pretty good at that new sport, and I thought, oh, look, I want to get really good at it and make it, and my team to be good at it, and be the best, because I've seen what was out there. And so yeah, the name I got from, at the time, the top team was a team called Asterix, and at tournaments they would run under Xylons. So I just kept with that intergalactic theme, and I thought, okay, Galaxy, I'm going to name my team Galaxy. And so that's sort of how it started. It was a bunch of mates. We had one men's team playing across the road here from my house, and it just built from there. We got good real quick because I was enthused, and what I did was I thought, we're going to tour. We're going to do something pre-season, a month before the season starts in October, and we're going to go somewhere. So we toured the North Island, we toured the South Island. At times we toured New Zealand. We went to Australia in '96 and again in 2000, and because I found out that was a good way of getting team bonding and getting a head start ahead of everyone else. Because once we hit the season, we just plow on through, and then we end up having a mixed team and a women's team and a 30s team, and it sort of built from there. We were having success, so it was easy for others to want to come on board. And then we had people from overseas. It started off with expat Kiwis who would move to this country or that country, and then they'd be part of the national setup because they wanted to build the game. A lot of them were ex-players that played with us, and yeah, so now we're in soon to be 15 countries because Fiji have just started a team. They had their first tournament 2 weeks ago. So yeah, 15 countries. We've got about, in a whole, I think it's 36 or 38 cities, and it's just cool, mate. It's certainly about the people. And in my early years, our group was all about winning, and we ran duathlons and triathlons, and we trained really hard. But as time gone on, we found it was a good way for people to come together, and with the networks from all those different cities, when people go over there, well, then straight away you've got a network of, before you find a place to stay, you can stay on someone's couch for 2 months, and then someone will get you a cheap car because they're all part of that network. So the relationships and the networks are huge within our club. And like most people, we try to run with our policy of no dickheads. We run a no dickhead policy, so that seems to work and help with the progress too. So no, it's been an awesome ride in the club. We always try to have things for our club like tours and our own in-house coaching. And so we this year we're taking between 12 and 16 teams on a South Island tour, our juniors. We normally take them to Gold Coast, but we're going to, because of COVID, we obviously can't go anywhere bar our own country. So yeah, we're going down the South Island. So no, the club's been really a lot of good people, in our club, and that's why I think we're able to just carry on because there's good people in place running stuff. So yeah.
Well, Pete, that's great, and I think not to embarrass you or anything, but anyone I speak to at any Galaxy club around the world, they do feel like they have a personal connection with you, and you seem to know everyone that plays in those clubs, and your interactions with them is fantastic. So, it's a big world, but in the touch world, Galaxy makes it a lot smaller, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's cool fun, mate.
Good. So one recent tournament and experience that a lot of people over here will be familiar with was the last time you guys were on a Galaxy worldwide tour, and that particular final at the Capital Cup there in Berlin. And I wonder if you'd just share a little bit about that tournament and that tour, and how it was and how much people enjoyed it.
Oh yeah, look, that was a great tournament. I took a team away. So with those overseas tours, I normally just flick a memo out to all the Galaxies and say, hey, I'm taking a team to this tournament, and then people just come forward and, yep, I'm keen, I'm not keen, I can't make it. And then we put a team together and we go to tournaments. We also did Amsterdam. I think that would have been 2 years ago now, and the year before was the Capital Cup. But I must say that Capital Cup one was huge, and I think there were teams from 13 different countries, and I think Chris, who was sort of the main guy running it, he did a really good job, him and his committee. And that venue was just, and the history behind it was was amazing, and the teams there were a lot of strong teams there from, obviously from England, but other teams as well, a lot of the developing nations and Ireland, and yeah, there's some really good teams there, and we had some good games, and we came up against obviously one of the top teams there, the bareback riders. So chock with Scotland and some England reps, and a lot of kids. I remember them as kids, and now they're really top performers, and I love coming up against them, and at times we don't sort of talk lots because I suppose you're in that competitive mode, but yeah, it's really cool fun seeing the progress of some of these. I talk about the Mikey Shorts and the like, and even Eddie's been a stalwart for years, Eddie San Juan, and and the England boys, those twins that you can't split apart. What's those two boys' names? They're not actually twins. They're in the mix there, and they play men's as well.
You're talking about Ryan and Clark.
Is it Clark? Yeah, Clark and Ryan. Yeah, those boys. Yeah, they're good operators, and they've really come a long way. And so it was nothing in that final. I think it was a drop off, and it could have gone either way. We had some young kids, and we had to tune them up during the course of that tournament, and I had to pull a couple aside and say, this is not how we roll, and this is this is how we do things as part of our structure, and they sort of come right. But it's when you're coaching and you're teaching kids, and it's not just about the on-field stuff; it's just as much about the off-field stuff. And what I find is when you do tune them up, in times ahead, they look back and they come to you and they say, oh, thanks for that. Or, I understand why you did that and stuff, because, some of the stuff's not great how people perceive in their minds, how they can act. So, but that was, great tournament, great setup, and lots of, good teams.
Oh, nice. Thank you. Really, really good to hear. So we'll move sort of beyond Galaxy now and look at the New Zealand Nationals. And I mean, massive tournament. I know similar to Oz in terms of how serious a Nationals tournament is, and its bragging rights, and you're playing against some of the best players in the world at a national tournament. Just tell us a little bit about the importance of the New Zealand Nationals, and of course sort of the history of your playing at the tournament as well.
Yeah. Look, we just had the juniors, which is 16s and 18s. That was a couple of weeks ago. I was helping coach a team there, and I had a great campaign with the crew I was with. We didn't win, but it was awesome. There are a bunch of boys we've been coaching for 4 or 5 years now, and once again, just being part of their growth and development as people and as touch players, it's so exciting, mate. And some of them go on. Some of them will go on to be an All Black or a Kiwi or something else. And it's cool when you know that, well, I spent a bit of time with that kid, and you got a relationship there, and it's just seeing them progress is cool. We also had like an IP, the juniors, which is the 10s, 12s, 14s. That's really big in New Zealand, as it is in Australia. They're huge tournaments, and it's a regional concept now. So you sort of have it within your regions around New Zealand. Lots of development goes on there. Touch New Zealand has had a policy brought in last year whereby they're trying not to be as competitive to align with Sport NZ. So they don't want kids being too full on and getting disappointed, and being with this whole new age around health and mental health. Mm-hmm. So there's lots of changes there. So that was a lot of getting used to for a lot of coaches, especially coaches of top operating teams who feel like, well, I want to carry on as it is. But it's not that way now. So they even talked about they still took the points in that, but they talked about next year not taking any points and taking any scores, So there's lots of changes in that world as well, so especially with the 10s, 12s, 14s. And some of the chats are around, why would we do that when they get to 16s, 18s, and we go full competitive mode again? And then there's no sort of, pathway or transition in from almost social social, not non-competitive, and then bang, we hit 16s and 18s. We're competitive. We're taking our teams, if in non-COVID times, to play Australia. Then would we fare so well? So there's still lots of ongoing chats around how people think we should align things. Yeah, and with our Open Nationals and Masters next week, that's our big event, is the Open and Masters Nationals. So with our Open teams, all the guns will be on deck, and there's been lots of movement, especially in the men's grade. There'll be a couple of provinces like Thames Valley, who are top operating men's side, loaded club side, have all gone to represent Thames Valley and left their counties area. There's been the Pearl Jam guys in Auckland who have left to go to North Harbour. So the men's is going to be very intriguing with all the movement that's gone on with a lot of the New Zealand players and top club teams within the country that have gone as a team. So, but yeah, look, exciting times. There's a homegrown series that New Zealand have put together to cater for their touch black wider squad members to play in. So we're still lucky enough to be carrying on playing Benny. We've had this whole summer pretty much playing touch, and then it'll culminate with all the club finals in the next couple of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, and obviously nationals next weekend. So yeah.
And yourself, Pete, you'll be taking the field next week?
I will be. Last year I wasn't going to play, and then I ended up jumping in the 45s for a mate who was coaching. Oh yeah, we're down to 12 players. I played last year, and then now I'm going to play again. Although last Saturday I did dislocate my shoulder, so I'm not going to be 100%. I'm going to have to strap it up and go back to SAS mode, mate. And SAS mode, you have to sometimes. Yeah. But yeah, I'll be running around in the 45s with the old fellas, and I'm helping out with a couple of coaches there for other teams, and doing a bit of commentating on finals day. So it'll be a good, fun, busy time.
Good. And look, I mean, you've got a long history there, and I think it's something like 20 consecutive gold medals at the New Zealand Nationals, isn't it, with Auckland? And how have you seen that tournament progress and grow over the years you've been involved?
Oh yeah, well, once again, it actually the tournament was at its height through the late 90s, when the game was at its peak. And there'd be 2 grades. There'd be an A grade men's and a B grade men's, and an A grade mixed and a B grade men's. It was really huge back then. It's starting to get there now, because what Touch New Zealand have done is they've opened it up so you can have more than one team. So a lot of the provinces in the men's and the mixed especially, they'll have 2 teams, like Auckland Blue and Auckland White, counties red and counties black. So the men's grade has got 16 teams because of that. Like, some of the key provinces have got 2 teams in the grade, same in the open mixed. So New Zealand's trying to open it up more so more people can play and take part, and more people, just like the tournaments, there's a couple more club tournaments now to just give more opportunities for people to play. So that tournament's big. And certainly the strength has got better with coaching nowadays. With with coaching and the technology now, coaches are a lot more aware of what needs to be done and how to actually put it across to their athletes and their players. Because things don't happen in one or 2 seasons. If you're going to be a high performer, it takes a long time and some consistency around selections and players and the like.
Yeah, absolutely. So moving on and just keep the focus on your playing career at the moment, but most capped player at international level, for those out there who didn't know. Look, I wonder if you just go through the sort of different World Cups and international series you've been a part of, and just the growth of that New Zealand setup on an international level for us.
Yeah. I'm guessing there's been about 8 World Cups, maybe, and I have been to them all. The first one was on the Gold Coast in Australia, was at Carrara Stadium in '88, and there's been lots of different things that have happened. I remember that first one going there, and then we had a warm-up game against Australia in 1988, and we drew 0-0. We drew 0-0 with Australian men's, and we were so wrapped. And I just remember diving everywhere to make touches on them all the time. And they had this move. It was called a 2-out with a sweeper. And they'd pass the ball 2-out, he'd dump. The guy would go to dummy up, and they'd bring this guy around, and they kept doing this move on us, and we're forever diving to make touches. And we drew 0-0. We were really wrapped, and we were just wanting to get in the van and go up the road and find a telephone box so we could ring home and say, hey, we drew with Australia. And some of the boys did that because there were no mobile phones back then where you had to go to the little red box and make a phone call. So, you know, and then a few days out from the start of the World Cup being told that, you actually, in your set of 6 touches, you got to throw the ball forward because the Americans and the Canadians were playing. So, okay. So there wasn't much lead and time frame to get your strategy sorted. Anyway, there's some interesting things over the years, mate, as the game started to develop. Another highlight / lowlight was having a very good side, New Zealand men's side in '95 at the Hawaii World Cup, and losing that final. We actually beat Australia twice in the round robin and in the semis. And then in the final, we end up getting smashed because we had 2 players sent off.
I was going to say it was a physical
it was 7
one,
aside,
wasn't it?
but it was actually ended up 6-on-5.
Yeah.
We had an all-in brawl. It was some crazy stuff has happened over the years, Benny. 99, I was in the men's, and then because there were 2 separate World Cups, you'd play the Masters, and then you'd have a day break, then you'd play the Open. So I was actually in both. I was in the men's, and then 3 months out, the coach said, "Oh, look, we just want you to concentrate on the men's," because I was in both teams, and we all knew that. He knew that, and he said, "No, we don't want you to play Masters now." I said, "Well, I can't because I've got 10 of my Galaxy teammates. They're only playing because I'm playing and coaching." And I said, and he said, "Well, I'm telling you," and I'm saying, "Well, it's too late. You've already put me in the men's. I'm in the men's," and so then I got a phone call from the manager. Then I was out of the men's. So I played in the 30 mixed, and it was funny because me and a guy in the Aussie team, Tony Altashi, we played that series in the 30 mixed, and then I think 9 years later we played each other in the Open mix. So I don't know how that happened, but we got it. A couple of silly guys who got it wrong, mate. But yeah. And 99 was a good one because we had a lot of. I ended up playing 30 mixed, and we had a lot of club mates. So we had that really good combination. And just ran on through, sort of going really well, and we beat Aussie 10-4 in the final, and that was a good campaign with a lot of close friends, and then we Japan in 2003, men's lost in a drop off. We've had some really close ones, Benny, that we've lost, and we've never won a Opens World Cup apart from our mixed team, who have won they won in South Africa in 07, and they won in 99. That's our only 2 wins in the open grades, but maybe we'll just keep trying. We'll keep on trying. It's a tough beast to beat, that yellow team, mate. Yeah.
And what's the psyche there? I can remember watching your team that you coached, the Women's Open in 2015, quite closely. And how do you get yourselves up, particularly in the Men's Open and the Women's Open divisions at a World Cup, knowing that win's not there yet, and you're chasing it?
Well, it's all about working hard, trying to work smart and hard, and knowing that yes, we can blame they play all year round, and they have more players than we do, and and it is what it is. You know what I mean? But we certainly know how to play the game. But those and we haven't won those grand finals, and the resourcing of Australia is bigger than what you think. Well, you would know this. I mean, we can stand in our sub box with 2 coaches, and there's more than 2 coaches over there, on and off the field. Up on the cameras and up and giving feedback. She's they're very clever, and they've got better at it. They've got better at it. You just go to their other tournaments like NTLs or their state cup tournament, and you see how their systems operate with their coaches and the staff that they have and what they focus on and the analysis, and it's pretty impressive, mate.
Have you got a favorite World Cup you've been to? Have you got one that really stands out as the?
No. Look, I don't, but they're all different, and I've had way more good times than I have, not so good times. I mean, the losing part at the time, it sort of hurts a bit, but you got to carry on. I mean, it's my fun thing, as it is most people's, and I do tell a lot of people that. I've had people who've left the game, and I've always wondered why, and we speak, and then I go. They go, yeah, no, the touch was it. And then they're nodding their heads, and I'm thinking, whoa, what's that about? Like, mate, this was your fun thing. Why give your fun thing away? So anyway, that's my outlook on it. I even now at my age 60, I still, mate, I love running around and having that competitive nature of, wanting to compete and trying to win. I mean, as humans, we love that stuff. Yes, it's good to have fun and enjoy fun, but it's more fun when you win.
Absolutely. So, look, stellar playing career. We'll move into kind of coaching now, and I know you're someone at the very top level who balances those so effectively. Just tell us a little bit about your kind of coaching career, and what's been good, what you've enjoyed.
Sure. In the early years and right through till now, conditioning. So strength and conditioning, fitness has been a big part of it. So I was lucky enough in my from a child and a kid to be very active, and that was our generation. We were outside playing all the time till dark, until we were told to come inside. And so, we were always naturally fit, as you could call it. And then when I started becoming a teenager with rugby and that, I carried that on. I'd always be doing well in that stuff. And I think as time went by, I found out that I had a big engine, and I could I could push further than most people. And I did some things. I worked on the rubbish trucks for a few years before I became a owner of a rubbish business. And so I had many years running on the road. In fact, my first team was one of my first earliest teams was the Dusties, as we called ourselves, because our boss on the trucks when I first started sponsored the team, and myself and a few ex-All Blacks like Frank Bunce and Eric Rush, we all ran on the rubbish trucks. And so 3.5 hours of your day was actually running and lifting and throwing bags. And, we got ourselves really fit. And on top of your rugby training, I couldn't play my rugby on a Saturday unless I went for my 10K run fast in the morning. I was so conditioned, and I wouldn't feel good if I didn't do some of that stuff. So I also did an event called in the late 90s, I think it was, called Clash of the Codes. And they had a whole lot of athletes from within New Zealand. A lot of them were Olympic gold medalists, and rowers and runners and all sorts. And so I learned lots there about the mental side, because I'd say, well, Ellie, what do you do when you can't run? And they'd say, well, I go for a 30K bike ride or 3K swim, and you know what I mean? And I was like, okay. So, you're not going to die. You just feel a bit sore. I also had this thing where it was like, in my mind, which I still apply, is like shift the load. So when I'd be doing a triathlon, which we did even for Galaxy, we did 4 every winter. And we'd get bikes and we'd go up mountains and we'd run all around this area here. And, I'd shift the load. Like when my quads were screaming, and I'd be in oxygen debt, and then I'd just say, shift the load to my calves. I just say to myself, I need to move that to my calves. So I would mentally do that and carry on. And I got to know that the mind is very powerful, and you can push yourself further. You whether it's playing through injury or digging a little bit deeper when you need to. So I always had that feeling when I walked on the touch field, when I looked across and I go, okay, I know what I got. Let's see what you got, because I know what I'm going to be throwing at you. So you better be fit. and conditioned, because, and I've always run by that. That doesn't apply these days. That does not apply these days. I'm a granddad now, so I'm in granddad mode. But I'll still find time to train in that. It's short and sharp now. I'm happy if I get it under 14 minutes for a 3K, my 3K run on the treadmill. So, and that's a lot slower than what I did back in the day. But mate, that whole mental toughness, and I based all my teams on fitness, and it always held us in good stead. We had a lot of players that people would look at and go, oh God, there's Remus and there. They got all the showboat players, but you can't win the goals if you're not fit and you last a 3-day tournament playing 12 games. You know what I mean? Yeah. So mate, based a lot of my teams on fitness and conditioning. Tried to get a good understanding around what we need to do. Obviously, game sense and strategies and systems, and putting those in place as well. We did play a lot what was in front of us back then. And as the game progressed, there is a lot of structure, and I understand that, because a lot of your players, they won't have the X factor. There's only a few players that have what you can call X factor, or can read what's in front of them really well and back it up with skill. So you've got to have players who just do certain roles because they don't have the X factor or the ability to read what's in front well and get a good strike rate. So, all those systems, and people have said that over the years about us, Australia. Oh, New Zealand's got all the flair and Australia has the structure. Yeah, well, that was certainly in the early years, that's how it was. And we would try and beat them with flair over structure. But then, we learned that you need to have structure, and they got better at putting guys with flair on there and selecting them and teaching them. They got the structure and they can play what's in front. And I'm talking about guys like Benji and Drummy and Willie B, and now there's a whole lot of them in those Australian teams that have good skill and vision. They can read what's in front and play as part of a structure as well. That's where our game's at, and it's it's awesome.
Yeah, really good. And in terms of that sort of coaching career representative level, what are some of the New Zealand teams that you've coached over the years?
Yeah, I suppose the most successful was the 99-30 mixed team, and that was because we had 10 of our players that had spent lots and lots of hours together. When you spend all that time together, that's when you can really do some business, because you know each other so well. You can almost just subconsciously read what that person's going to do, because you've seen it so many times. Okay, here it comes. Oh, he stepped off his left. Okay, I'm going to run a chop line now, not an outline. Or, that sort of stuff, because you're so well knowing of what each other's skill sets are and how you can read to make that work to your benefit. So, yeah, look, that was a good team. But I just quickly scanning, that 88 team, in our early years, 88, 91, we were conditioned, and we just didn't have that understanding around better things to do, better plays to do, better systems to run on D. We didn't understand things like if you all move over together. I mean, nowadays you call it, channeling, shifting, lifting, dropping, lifting. There's so many little systems and tactics that you do with your feet and with your positioning and with your timing that there was none of that back in certainly the 3 or 4 World Cups, the first ones. We've got really good at it now. And even now there's still, the coaches got a lot better, but at club level, you just have to go to a field and watch a couple of teams play, and you'll go, okay, well, they're at this level or they're at that level, or to get an understanding by what they're actually being coached and how they operate out on the field.
B, you kind of touched on this a little bit as we've gone through, but I wonder if you could just give us a little bit of insight into your coaching philosophy, how you approach innovation, how you stay on top of things when it comes to the how quickly the game progresses now.
Well, I suppose what was a benefit to me was the fact that I spent a lot of time in Australia. And when I say spend a lot of time, it's been living in New Zealand, but traveling over there. So I think this is going to be my first NTL in 23 years I haven't attended. Which is, and I'm sort of sad about that, because I've had a lot of time there, and I've got a lot of good friends that are in Australia, and so yeah, I won't be part of this NTLs because I don't. It's all time in isolation. Come back and you sit in a hotel for 2 weeks and all of that. So it's not going to happen. So that was. I found out that because they drive the game and they run the game, and there's all these things that we touched on before, that to keep my finger on the pulse, I need to be in the early years certainly playing and coaching over there, and then in my later years just coaching over there. So I mean, I still had a run. I think I had a run in the 50s last NTLs with some because there were some of my guys I played against like Scotty Notley and those guys, and they said, "Oh, why don't come and run with us in the 50s?" So yeah, I still had a run of the 50s, and but worked a lot with Rebels over the last 20 years, Sydney Rebels, and early years as a player, and then the last decade or so helping out with the coaching and that with different teams, 30 mixed, 27 women's, mainly with the open mix, because a good friend of mine, Manu Wakely, is the head coach over there. Very good coach, very talented coach and player in his own right. Gosh, I think he's 47 now, still running in the open mixed. And our team at Rebels has been an older side, a lot of over 40s players, but it just shows you talk about that conditioning. If you're conditioned physically, then that gives you that mental edge, because you've done the work, and you'll be up against players half your age, but you're not standing on a line and having a sprint race. You're trying to outthink, outmaneuver, out-system, outplay, your opponents, and that experience actually counts for a lot. It actually counts for a lot if you're in a higher enough level of physicality, and that your the stuff we put in place, and it's the nightly video sessions with the team, then it's sending them the clips and say, look at this, because next time he does that, this is what I want you to do, and breaking down each team, because we know before we get to the tournament, it's going to be one of these three teams that will play in the semis and the final, and this is what we're going to do. And it's a lot of time and work, but man, it's so exciting and exhilarating when you put something out there, be it a system, and it works, and you shut it down, or our attack play is going to work because we know that Shior's on the left side always shuts hard. So this is the play we're going to run. So. Yeah, mate, and I talk a lot about mismatches within my own coaching, and if you've got good systems in place, and the top teams generally have it where they, you're up, back, you're off, so you're turning over quickly, then the main mismatches in our sport are fresh versus tied, because no matter how good you are, if you've been on for a minute and a half and I've just come on the field, well, then all the mismatches are in my favor. Fresh versus tied, forward versus backwards, fast versus slow. And if you're an oxygen jet, communicator versus non-communicator, everything's in your favor when you're turning over quickly and you've got fresh players working tied players.
Yeah, I
can go on many for hours, but I won't, because I know we're running.
No, I mean, it's excellent, and I think the proof you've touched there on the NTLs, and that Rebel side has been so successful for so long, with such familiar faces, that the proof is there, isn't it? When it comes to a big tournament like NTLs. You need all of that there to be as successful as you've been. So, yeah,
and it's not easy, mate. It's not. Every year we have issues, whether it's players going and who we fill the gaps with, or some. Even this year is going to be different again. I'm still talking lots with Manu, and although I'm not going to be there, we still talk about everything, every player, every system. What's going to happen now because he's come in and he's got a pension to do that, and will we have enough time to change it in 65 hours of training time? And there's every year it's not easy. It's not easy, and sometimes we'll win by 1 point, sometimes we'll win by a drop off, but it just makes you feel after the fact that okay, we needed to put that amount of time and that amount of effort into everything. So yeah.
Yeah, I can remember watching a lot of Rebels Cobras finals in the mixed open when I was younger. So.
Oh yeah, that was a great opponent. the Cobras. They're not there now, so our opponents tend to be the Sharks in recent times, the South Queensland Sharks. And once again, good coaching setup, good lineup of players, and it looked like it'll be the Sharks again. The Mets are in the running as always. They're a top 4 side as well. So yeah, fun stuff, mate.
Awesome. Yeah, very. So look, just touch a little bit about your global travel now, and we sort of talked about it within the context of Galaxy, but you know, you're always somewhere, and I know it's COVID at the moment, and you've probably got itchy feet that you're missing that travel. And I can remember a few years ago when you were over here, I don't know how many miles we did and how many clubs you coached, but I'm pretty sure you coached every player in England at some point during that trip. And what I just loved about it is it didn't matter whether it was a local field in Bristol or, you know, we didn't have a facility in Nottingham. You know, every player mattered, every session mattered to you. Just tell us a little bit why you love travel so much and why you really enjoy that aspect of coaching.
Oh yeah, look, it's the people. It's just meeting people, and there've been times when I've gone overseas and, you know, different countries. Everyone operates different. Some of them will say, "Oh yeah, we've got you in a motel," and that is like, "Oh, I'd rather stay with someone at their house because then there's more transfer of knowledge." And you know, in a hotel room, you're lying looking at the ceiling. You know, I'd rather be talking till 3 a.m. and watching videos and, you know, talking about how your crew's going and how can we get it better. And no, it's all about the people, mate, and the connections and the relationships. I love, you know, I love that I'm able to give off what I've learned and been a privilege to learn off other coaches. And I'm still learning today. Jesus, mate, you know, you never know it all in the sport, never. And just being able to give some of that knowledge that you've learned and to help you lose and to help you win, you know, and being able to share. That's that's cool for me. Sometimes we'll go and they say, "Oh, you want to go and we'll go here, we'll go watch there." Or I said, "Oh, well, if you want to, yeah, but I'm fine here." You know what I mean? I don't need to see another castle or another.
Just another touch pitch.
Yeah, with all due respect, but yeah. So I'm quite happy to just you know, talk touch all day and how can we make things better and stuff like that. Yeah, boring, I suppose, mate. But yeah.
Have you had a favourite trip you've made?
No, not that I can remember. And all the countries are different. I mean, I've had some interesting ones. I 3 years ago, I was up in Sweden, and one of the best parts of the trip was going and coming from training. We would hop in the car, and he had a heated car seat. Oh, it was so good because it was freezing outside below zero. And you know, I remember pulling up in the plane in Sweden, and it was a beautiful sunny day, and I jumped out in my singlet, and everyone was looking at me, and oh my gosh, it was freezing cold, and the sun was shining. You know, there's been some laughable times with the different and the languages barriers and having interpreters. And you know, there's a time when I went to France for a few years, and they were really disappointing me. I couldn't, you know, I just had the same 4 or 5 bonjour. Like, come on, Pete, you've got to learn some more sentences, you know. But oh yeah, good times, mate. And no matter where you go in the world, people are the same. Yeah, we have pockets of communities that do dumb shit, you know, but generally the people are good, mate. And you know, we just all want to be better, and we all want to be healthy. And so touch is such a great vehicle for that. You know, the movements that you do within that, and you work in the lungs and the body and the ligaments and the muscles, and it's just such a great sport. You can play with your kids, you can play with your grandkids, you can play with your partner. You can we're lucky, mate. We got a good sport.
We do, absolutely. Look, Pete, this week for us, for the high performance community, as you know, we're sort of leading into a big weekend focused on wellness and well-being. I'm just wondering whether I could pick your brain a little bit in terms of, you know, as an athlete, what your approach is to sort of mental health and wellness, but also as a coach and a player coach, what your approach is to sort of to mental health and your own well-being and things like that.
Sure. Well, it's a big issue nowadays, and so it should be, because the world has changed, and things you said 20, 30, 40 years ago, you can't say now. I mean, I laugh with my boys. A lot of the boys that I coached in those early years, and would get together and have a laugh, and and they'd say, "Yeah, remember, yeah, you got to catch those." Apparently, that was one of my phrases back there to the wingers, and it sticks in their minds forever. You throw them a long ball and they drop a ball, and you're saying, "You got to catch those." But and I hear coaches say those phrases, and I just cringe now because just for the fact that they've remembered that from 30 years ago. It's like, oh, okay, maybe I don't say that phrase anymore. But people are more aware these days of and technologies with us. This generation of always being online and always seeing each other. They're just different, Benny, and so we have to, especially us older generations, have to be understanding of that, because I'm aware, mate, and in all seriousness, when I deal with people, you don't know them, and or if you come into a situation or you find out about something and it's like, I really need to know what I'm talking about and get more information as you build and learn as a coach around how I deal with this, because you don't want anyone going into depression, leaving the sport, thinking about suicide. Oh yeah, mate, and I've been to other coaching seminars, and we've talked about this. There's a lot of coaches at different levels, Olympic coaches, club coaches, and I've seen some stuff when I was coaching rugby as well, and that was at an international level with the USA Sevens and New Zealand Sevens, and mate, I saw things that were happening then, like, oh, okay, oh yeah, she liked my those posts, but she didn't like this post, and like, wow, it's just a different world, man. I don't know where I'm going with this, but these are the things that just come to mind that I'm throwing out of my mouth that that I know are different nowadays, and with this younger generation, it's it's about likes, it's about seeing yourself and having photos of yourself and feeling good. And if someone says something to me that I don't like, then I'm really going to be upset. And it's just different. It's different times, mate.
Yeah. And Peter, in terms of like sort of practical aspects of at a tournament, I mean, you spend a lot of major tournaments as a player coach. So, how are you making sure you're taking care of yourself in that time as well? Because you got to be there for your players. You got to be there for your coaching team. You're there for your teammates. So how are you making sure you're staying on top of your mental health during those periods of time?
Yeah, well, firstly, as a player coach, it's not an ideal situation. It's a tough gig. It's a very tough gig. I'm lucky that I've done it for many, many years, but I don't recommend it. And if you are, you've got to have someone to bounce off. If you have an assistant coach, have someone that your manager's done some coaching as well, someone that you can bounce off. Otherwise, if you're just leaving it to yourself to make all the decisions, it's too tough. And plus the fact that as a coach, when you're in the sub box, as a player coach, you're getting your drink in that. You're not watching the game. And if you do see something, oh, that just happened there, he needed to do this instead of that, he comes off, you've gone back on the field. So, unless you've got someone there to bounce and say, I need to talk John about that retreat line or whatever it may be, it can't happen as a player coach. You're relying on recall. So when you go back for that next meeting or after the game, if you have 3 or 4 one-on-ones because you feel you need to, then are you going to remember that? You didn't have time to write it down in your notebook when you subbed off. You didn't have anyone to talk to. You've got to have a pretty good memory if you're going to do that and be pretty experienced, I mean, it's like the coach who rocks up the training if you're not experienced and you go, and you've been a hard day at work all day and you haven't thought about it and you go, okay, yeah, a couple of laps around the field while you're thinking of what to do next. It's, so my health and well-being has been pretty good over the years. I think because of my generation, we had to learn things tough. I got into me and my wife. We had our children real young. We came from the country. We moved to the city, and we didn't have mum and dad there to help out. We had to make some big decisions. She was 16. I was just turned 19. We had a baby girl, and who's now 41. And mate, you know, we would walk across the motorway, go to work, and found out, oh, you can't walk across the motorway to go to work, mate. You don't cross the motorway, you know. And then finding jobs and doing that. So, you know, I look back and it's like, well, there's nothing that phases me these days. I'm an old man, and you know, we're a different generation. Whereas that would never happen nowadays. It's just people don't operate that way. So we've got to work with the generation that is here and now. In that 16s and 18s, we had a scenario. The coach of the team who I supported in the 18 boys, one scenario that came up was the two to stand down for the final. So we'd go to the tournament without playing. Okay, these two are going to stand down for game 1, game 2, game 3. And of course, it changes with injury and form and attitude. Someone may do something wrong, or they turn up late for the first thing. And no one does it in his crew, I must say. He's got a very organized prep and planning. And but you know, sorting out the two that were going to stand out, and how we put that in a very respectful way to them and their parents. So all along we knew that there would be two standing down. So the processes and the understanding and the chats with the team and the parents made it so that they were well respected. When we talked about the two as we got to the semi and the final, we would talk about it. We were all clap for them and say how they had contributed as part of, we are a team of 16. So I mean, that's one example, Benny, you know, but yeah, there's a lot of issues that come up, as you would know, with play. Someone gets an injury, and how do you deal with that? Are you going to play one of your key players at 50%? You know, or you can throw in one of your young ones, and yeah, there's so many examples that you talk about, but it's certainly a valid thing to be aware of, is the mental levels of our athletes and our players in this generation.
Yeah, definitely. No, thanks for that, Pete. So, look, just coming towards the end now, and I think this is going to be a real challenge for you. But are you able to identify sort of, you know, a high point of your extensive career, and maybe a low point for us as well?
There's been lots of both, and nothing comes to mind. But I mean, if you look from a results perspective, I mean, that Hawaii loss, we didn't get it right there, and we bought into stuff we talked about not buying into, and I'm talking about how the brawl started and what were the keys of us not to buy into that we bought into. So that was knowing that we had the team to win that, and we didn't win, you know. So that was, I look back, and that was one that I thought, oh yeah, we should have won that World Cup. That was a disappointment for me. But a lot of highlights. I mean, I played in the when I left the men's Auckland men's for provincial stuff. That was in '91, and I left there because I wanted to play with my daughter in the open mixed. So I left the men's, and then the next year I played in the open mixed with Auckland. And I played with my daughter, and that was one of my highlights. We came at a time when the mix was really strong. Bay of Plenty was the champions at the time, and they were sitting on 9 in a row. And so we ended up winning that final and stopping their run to get 10. And they had, you know, 9 players in the New Zealand mixed. And yeah, you know, it was good because there was the challenge of, there was the fun of being with my daughter, but the challenge of now leaving the men's grade and coming in, and we threw out some new stuff in that in that year of playing there, and we beat the Bay in the rounds and in the final, and so that was exciting for the fact that all the strategies needed to be put in place and how we worked our team, and but running with my daughter, we both scored in the final, and it was just cool, mate. It was just really cool. Awesome. That was a good highlight. Yeah.
Oh, amazing. Really good.
Yeah, lots of other things. I mean, there's another year in the men's where a lot of guys left to go to different provinces with the New Zealand coach to North Harbour. Some guys went to mix, and I had what I call a pack of dogs, which is a term I use lots over the years. So I had to work with a pack of dogs, and we ended up winning that tournament, and we had no right to win that tournament because we'd lost so many New Zealand players and good players that were a part of our setup. So, yeah, those are a couple, Benny, that come to mind.
It's awesome. No, thanks, Pete. Look, we've got one question that's popped up on the chat there, and essentially, have you got another World Cup in you?
If I did, it's going to be in the 50s grade, mate. So
Good.
yeah,
Well,
think about that later.
we've got you down for that, so we expect to see you in the 50s at the next World Cup, definitely.
Mate, yeah, big shout out to England Touch and all the work you guys have done over the last decade, especially. It's cool seeing your progress, and lots of teams, lots of coaches. Your refereeing structures are really good, and I must say your governance and when I look at your plan, and it's quite comprehensive, mate. It's you guys are doing some more your governance, putting good people in place in charge of different roles. You guys are doing a great job, and lots of good friends over there. Just Mikey Rowe, Marnie, Eric. There's lots of good friends over there, and yourself, mate. So all the best for when you guys get allowed back out to play, and hopefully will be a big tournament coming up that we'll see you again sometime in the future.
Oh, that's great, Pete. Pete, look, thanks for your time. Thanks for spending an hour of your Saturday morning away from the family as well. I know it's Grandchild Day, so you have a busy day ahead of you, I'm sure. Lots of meters in the legs there, but we really appreciate your time and sharing some of your insights with us.
Yeah. So that's what I'm doing today, mate, with this little fella there. We're going to the swings and we're going to the zoo. And so all the best. We'll catch up with you again soon.
Good. Thanks very much, Pete.
Take care.